Here's a simple fact. Giant robots are cool. Plain and simple, video over. Thank you for watching. Okay, not quite over, but still, who doesn't like giant robots? Giant robots are universally appealing, but we generally have Japan to thank for really igniting this trend through its early breakthrough in mecha-focused anime. Even in the early humble beginnings of manga and anime, robots were already playing a very prevalent role in shaping the medium. After all, Astro Boy is one of the earliest icons, and while he wasn't a giant robot per se, Astro Boy definitely helped cement the fascination with robots in Japanese media. It's from there that we see the trend going towards series like Tetsujin 28, to Mazinger, to Gundam, 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 Gundam.
My Gundam senses are tingling.
And Gundam really set the bar for mecha in many ways. Its legacy has... Weird. How's this thing going off? In the middle of a scripted video? Anyways, I bet it's one of those robocalls. Hello?
Jesus, are you talking about Gundam?
Linda? How did you even get this number?
Don't worry about it. So anyways, which Gundam series are you going to talk about, huh?
Well, I wasn't actually going to talk...
Well, you should talk about Zeta. You know, it teaches everyone a valuable lesson that Camille can also be a boy's name, and that sunglasses make the perfect disguise for former Xeon pilots in hiding. Yes.
Actually, I was going to talk more about the game's
Were you going to stream your latest kit? Are you going to finally tackle that massacred Hyakushiki?
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, to label your runners is tedious work, but it'll save you so much time when you're sorting through them for individual parts. I mean, it's always a great thing to do. Never forget to change your art blade ever so often, or otherwise it'll wear out from all the nubs you cut off. Always sand in one direction. Otherwise, you're going to create a huge dent in your kit. Look both ways before you nip off a piece of the runner. Don't forget to brush your teeth before a build because loose nubs are the leading cause of gingivitis. Using anything but Tamiya primer is actually punishable by law in some states. Tomino once caught a fish this big. Huge. It was huge. Gundam Breaker 3 is the best dating simulator this side of the Mississippi. Did you know that?
Okay, that was... informative? Maybe? I think she said something about Gundam Breaker 3, which is good because despite the fact I enjoy some Gundam series, I've actually never played a Gundam game in my life. It's true, my exposure has really been limited to just some anime and Gunpla kits, but never an actual game, which is odd. Instead, my main mecha game exposure has been Mechasalt and Armored Core. Perhaps the timing seems just right for me to try out Gundam Breaker 3, along with some other games and see what the hype is all about.
Huh? Did the phone disconnect, or did he hang up? No, Jesus would never hang up on me like that. Or would he?
Gundam Breaker 3 is not the latest game in the series, but from what I generally gathered, it's considered one of the more acclaimed games in the franchise. Gameplay-wise, it's largely a hack-and-slash game that offers a wide variety of customization options, but more on that later. One thing I do want to immediately note here is that the game does not have a Western release, and I'm actually playing an import copy, which thankfully has English subtitles. Anyways, the game boots up with a little short opening and immediately has you jump into a short tutorial section. It gives you a pretty good feel for the gameplay. Again, with this being my very first Gundam game, I had a rough idea of what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised by how the game handles combat and maneuverability. Your mobile suit moves pretty well actually. Not too slow, but not wicked fast as to break the illusion of it being a giant robot. You start off with a primary melee weapon and a ranged weapon. Melee strikes can come in both a light and a heavy variant, and holding down the heavy attack will pop opponents into the air like Devil May Cry. Honestly, that's kind of the feel I got out of the combat. You could do juggles and air raids, like a character action game, but the attack swings are shorter and the variety is scaled back. You can also shoot your ranged weapon by either locking onto enemies or by changing into the full range mode, which turns the game into a third-person shooter. Once done with the short tutorial section, the game introduces you to its campaign mode, where you meet Misa, a Gunpla enthusiast whose father runs a small local shop. Impressed with your Gunpla battle skills, you'll get drafted into her Gunpla battle team, and you'll compete in tournaments in order to gain a good reputation for the Gunpla shop and help revitalize the failing shopping strip. So yeah, rather than being based on a specific Gundam series, this line of games actually sports an original story, set around Gunpla, which to newcomers is the hobby of Gundam model kit making. It's more akin to the Gundam Build Fighter series, where the pilots are enthusiasts who assemble their model kits for battle. This is a key factor in not only for the story, but in the gameplay. You see, rather than selecting from a roster of preset Gundam and other mobile suits, you collect an array of different parts throughout the campaign. You'll just be casually fighting and notice that, hey, suddenly you obtain the arms of a shining Gundam and the legs of a Goof custom. Thankfully, you're not just limited to the random pieces. If you're looking to obtain all the parts of a particular model kit, then you can actually purchase it in the in-game store, once you've met that point in the campaign. Naturally, they're all based off real-life model kits from the Gundam franchise, so if you want the parts from one of your favorite series, you could just buy them. Oh hey, Double Zeta Gundam. Isn't that one of Linda's favorite Gundam series? The one negative I see about this is that since all the parts are based on existing model kits, it unfortunately means that some mobile suits are sadly absent. Salute Tequila Gundam. But that's just a minor complaint. The overall level of mecha customization goes far beyond just swapping out pieces. The amount of cosmetic options alone is simply ridiculous. It's really a matter of what does this game not let you do. I mean, the game allows you to manually dial in the level of wear or rust that you want in your kit. You can select finishes and accents from a variety of different patterns and manual place colors. The absolute liberty given in the customization is so extensive, I swear that every factor conceivable has been accounted for. The game truly lets you have it your way. Do you want a mobile suit to show your love of haggis and bagpipes? Done. Or how about a kit that shows everyone that you're seriously edgy? Done. Or do you need a mech that says, yes, I listen to Dead or Alive, drink cherry coke, and I will never financially recover from this? Done. It truly recreates the sensation of what Gunpla building is like, although certainly through a more streamlined and less craft-focused way. Beyond cosmetics, the customization choices also affect gameplay, as you have weapons that you can swap in and out, item rollouts, special moves, etc. You can add special moves to your arsenal, but your mobile suit has to have the appropriate part in order for it to be added. So if you want to do Shining Finger, you're going to need the corresponding part associated with it. The game sports various weapon types that you can change in and out of. Melee weapons include a variety of swords, axes, neginatas, to even your bare robot fists. Ranged weapon customization is just as varied, with machine guns, beam cannons, and bazookas. Weapons do a good amount to change up your gameplay style, although admittedly, some weapons in the melee category play very similarly. With the use of an item, you can actually go as far as adding an additional weapon strike to shake up the variety of your attack string. I personally like adding a neginata for an extra visual flair to my combos. Going even further than that though, all individual parts and weapons can be leveled up as you progress throughout the game, and believe me when I say it can be a tiny bit intimidating when you see all the different leveling options you can get. One leveling option is fusion. You're allowed to fuse together parts, like if you have duplicates of the same headpiece, or even if they're completely different parts. The game also allows you to level up the traditional way by spending XP points, aka plastic, to your existing parts too, in the event that there's a part that you're really adamant to keep in your build. Fusing parts is also beneficial in maintaining part-specific perks from part to part, which is a must towards the late game as you'll be swapping out pieces frequently. As you'd imagine, you can't level up the weapon items in your item select inventory, but support items are still very beneficial in your rollout. I highly recommend keeping heals in your quick select inventory because, believe me when I say, you're going to need them for some of the more cheap boss fights in the game. The campaign mode in this game is quite fun, but I believe it's best enjoyed in short bursts. As stated earlier, the game's story has you and Misa competing in Gunpla tournaments, all in the effort to make a name for her father's shop, whose store and the mall strip they're in are fledgling in business. Along the way, you'll meet a cast of characters, like rival tournament competitors and other small business owners. They definitely have some fun moments with the writing here and there, but I wouldn't say it'll blow your mind. Huh. That's pretty clever. I'll see what you did there. In the story, you're part of a team, so you'll have computer-controlled allies that go through missions with you. In the beginning, you'll only have Misa, but farther along in the game's story, you'll have the Knight SD Gundam join you for support when an engineer joins your team. Boss fights are a real nice break in the campaign, and they make for some entertaining encounters, although they typically come towards the end of a chapter. As true with their source material, they can be quite challenging fights, and they make for some very anime moments, especially in how they introduce the game's burst mode feature. For as much fun as the campaign mode is, I do think that it benefits better from being played in short bursts rather than long extended periods of time. I largely say this as the amount of mission variety is limited, and they can get quite repetitive over the course of a few hours. In the missions, you're typically clearing 3 to 5 areas worth of CPU-controlled mobile suits, with the occasional player-controlled suits fighting you, and an occasional boss. Or you're knocking down towers while fending off waves of enemies in intervals, or defending the tower. Another minor gripe is area variety. For a bulk of the campaign, you'll be traversing the same handful of areas with minor breaks in between. By Chapter 2, you've seen the layout for the moon, the desert, the city, the ice areas, completely ingrained in your memory. Sometimes the game will throw in a vehicle here or there, which can make some sections blow by rather quick, but it's a minor fix for a noted issue. Thankfully, the combat and customization variety is intuitive enough to keep it largely exciting, but there were times where I felt I had to take a break. Ultimately, I quite enjoyed this game. While certainly not perfect, it's a damn good fun game, and a great use of the Gundam license. The gameplay is extraordinarily fun, and while it may get repetitive at times, it gives you so many tools to really create your own dream mobile suit kit, and that means a lot to me in the long run. So if you're a fan of Gundam, or Gunpla, I say this game's a solid 8, and even if you're not a fan, I say this may very well be a great jumping on point. It's not series specific, and may get you interested into Gundam. It's definitely well worth playing. You know, I've got this other mecha game, Super Robot Wars. I've always heard so much about it, but I can't say I've ever given it a try either, so let's take a short peek at...
Oh, are you covering Super Robot Wars now? So did you know that the Super Robot Wars franchise is over 25 years old, and most of the games have never made an English release due to licensing issues? Crazy, right?
You know, I have heard of that. Only 6 games in the whole franchise have ever had an English release, and of those 6, only 2 to 3 have ever been released in the United States, specifically the original generation games, as they don't feature any of the licensed mecha.
Oh, fascinating stuff. Did you also know that people who hang up on me get their butt punched?
I think have bad connection. Talk some bye. So yeah, as Linda was saying, very few games from the Super Robot Wars franchise have ever been translated into English because they feature various crossover characters and mecha designs from various different franchises. Different games will include a different series. One entry might have the Eva units from Evangelion. One might include the Big O. Hell, the one I have here features characters from Cowboy Bebop. So, as I was stating before, let's take a short peek into Super Robot Wars T. So, right off the bat, this is not an action game series, but rather a strategy RPG, akin to Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics. Although, honestly, the closest comparison would probably be Namco Cross Capcom, or the Project X Zone series. I mean, similar gameplay and similar concept. In Super Robot Wars T, you have 2 scenarios based off whether you pick the male or the female protagonist. I personally went with the female main character, Sagiri. Your main character pilots an original mobile suit known as the Tyranado, and with your support team you will take on numerous scenarios which interconnect with crossover characters. The story is quite simple and honestly reads like an amalgamated fanfic, where your OCs will just randomly encounter Spike Spiegel or Captain Harlock, and you'll occasionally get those dream what-if situations. It's definitely amusing in the beginning, although I'm not sure if the surreal nature of it wears out over the game's 60-hour story. I'm only about 10 hours in, and it's fun so far. Gameplay-wise, this game strings you along from scenario to scenario. A scenario here consists of some introductory cutscenes, with a little bit of back-and-forth dialogue, until you reach the confrontation. You have your battle, and once all enemy units are disposed of, you hit that scenario's epilogue and then break. The game can be a bit slow if you're not used to strategy RPGs, but I found it to be fine. Gameplay is pretty typical of the genre, and I have no complaints against the core design. If you're familiar with the genre, you know what to expect. Player and CPU turns where units are moved in relation to the opponents, launching attacks from a unit's specified range limit, and utilizing specific skills in order to buff your side or debuff the enemy. At every exchange, whether initiated by you, the player, or by the CPU, you're getting the probability of the attack's success, and a few options in order to increase or decrease the probability, which is a nice feature, although sometimes I just blindly agree to the encounter with no prep, and my unit just dodges anyway. As with many games in this genre, the units that score the most death blows are given the most XP, and are able to unlock skills sooner, which is key to how you should be utilizing your team, because if you over-rely on a unit in particular, it can result in an uneven team. True to the source material that they're borrowing from, you'll be able to control the crossover mecha units and ships and be able to launch some very fancy attacks from their respective anime series. The attacks you do are certainly neat to see the first time around, but I imagine after hours of seeing the rocket punch, you might want to skip it. Thankfully, the game features a fast forward feature in order to speed through exchanges. Outside of the battles, the game doesn't really have a hub world or anything, rather just a break in between. It's in the downtime where you'll be micromanaging your team, leveling up individual skills for both the mecha itself and the pilot. It's quite fun, but I really do recommend checking out some guides if you're really focused on team optimization. Presentation-wise, the game is quite simple. The original character art is solid, and the crossover characters look as though they were literally ripped out of the original series. Mecha units are actually presented in a super deformed style, which is a trademark of the Super Robot Wars franchise. The animation is flashy, but definitely uses a lot of low-budget tricks to get the most bang from the limited character movement. Some of the mecha attacks are certainly more spectacular than others. I mean, look at the effort that they put into the Shining Finger. To be honest, with this level of presentation, the game would probably fit very well as a mobile game. I know this particular entry is also available on the Switch, and there is in fact a Super Robot Wars mobile game, Super Robot Wars DD. Huh. Outside of animation, the game uses a lot of licensed music, which I sadly cannot play for you here. But do revel in knowing that you will in fact hear anime openings every few minutes or so when you're playing. I'll admit, it's cute to be able to hear Tank when the swordfish appears, but it literally plays every time the swordfish appears, whether you're attacking or you're being attacked. While it took a while for me to get into this game, I am enjoying it. It's hard to say if I'll find myself completing the entire campaign, but it does satiate my fix for a good strategy RPG. If I do say Is this because I said you love Double Zeta? Because the phone thing was totally my cell reception, I swear. I swear the whole alpaca stuff, it's just a fun gag. Wait, no, please.
Oh, you get KO! You win!
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I want to give a special thank you to Linda Lee, aka VampyBitMe, for lending her voice. You can find her socials listed below, and I suggest checking out her YouTube and Twitch. Also, thank you to NetLexia for the new drawings. If you like her art, feel free to check her out. Her socials will also be listed below.